Alright, so this is going to be your VoD review for Double Air for your Annie game. The first thing I'd like to start with before I actually get into the VoD review itself is I've only taken a peek at the game so far, but I went through and I actually made a lot of Annie notes for you, and I'm going to leave those down in the description of the YouTube video. A lot of that stuff will be information that you might be able to bounce back to for context when we're looking at the VoD, so rather than repeat it over and over, certain things that I feel like would have been different with these different things in mind, these different tips, these different things that have changed with mage items and her itemization and runes. Those are just all going to be down in the description, so I don't have to repeat them. But before we get into the VoD once again, looking at your runes, I don't think your runes are particularly bad, but I do think Electrocute Annie is going to be the way to go in lower elos, especially because Electrocute goes well with W max. In your matchup, since you're up against an Aurelion Soul this guy, W max is going to be super helpful because he usually just pushes you in and roams a lot. In order to deny him this push and roaming that he constantly likes to do on that champion, you max W and you fight his wave clear with your wave clear. There's a lot of other reasons why W max I think is currently being underappreciated over Q max, but we'll get into that as the video goes on. In order to win trades and stay higher on HP, you have Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter. I think that's perfectly fine. Since you don't really build Rod of Ages anymore on Annie or Catalyst first with the item changes, getting Taste of Blood is, I think, actually a very crucial way to survive trades in laning phase heading into like the mid-late game or mid-game before like 12 minutes. Because this health, if you use it off of cooldown combined with Scorch, is actually very relevant trade power. And you get some scaling on this, you start healing off of basically everything you throw, and there's a lot of healing going on. It's very effective for the fact that you don't have Catalyst and the Eternity passive anymore on these old items, because you don't build this anymore. We're going to get more into the reasons of why into the video. But this is where I'm going to straight up compare the value of Comet to Electrocute max, or not Electrocute max, but Electrocute build. Comet is not bad, because you do use single target spells and you can poke, but in my opinion, with the way Annie has changed with the items, because you rush Ludens now, your Q basically just becomes a tool to land your stun, it becomes a tool to farm, it becomes just like a very light harass tool. It really just becomes set up for everything else, because once you have Ludens, that alone is going to add a lot of extra poke to your Q. It's gonna even be so much damage alone, just the little Ludens passive. Where is it? I find it in one of these games. It doesn't really look like you're building Ludens at all in any of these mage games. Actually, no, Vladimir would not build it. Alright, we're just gonna have to look it up. It's 100 something damage, right? That's how much damage the Luden Q does. So basically, once you finish Ludens, its base damage combined with the scaling that it has on its own AP, if you get a Ludens proc on a Q that you just kind of like throw out for trading purposes, in some cases it's going to do as much or more damage than all of those extra levels you put into your Q. Q damage increases by 35 per level. Ludens passive or active on the item does 100 minimum, and it gets up to like 130 pretty quick. And you can only gain a maximum of 140 from putting points into this skill. Whereas if we look at the W max here, W is wave clear, it's an instantaneous spell, and it gains 45 damage per cast. The difference between 45 and 35 damage per level, especially on a AoE ability, it's more damage per level and it's AoE. This is a much more important skill in my opinion. Sure, the mana cost goes up, which some people say is prohibitive or limiting, but I think this is very bad reasoning as to why you would not max this first. The mana cost, it goes up by 10 per cast, but when we consider the fact that we are buying a mana item first in Ludens, and we also have Doran's Ring, this mana cost is actually cheaper than it looks. Because when you think of the mana return on a Doran's Ring, I think it's 3 mana per kill. If you clear a wave with your Incinerate and kill 4 or 5 minions with it, you're gonna get 4 or 5 minions, you're gonna get 12 to 15 mana back just for killing them. So this supposed mana increase per level is not half the devil that some people might make it out to be, because you're going to get mana return by wave clearing with it. You're also going to get mana return by clearing the minions faster and potentially not needing to get pushed in so quickly. You just push the wave, kill them all, and then you're free to go do something else like back or roam because you have more AoE and wave clear. The idea that you cannot max this first for mana reasons is absolutely ridiculous. I would argue that any day. But before, there's just one more thing to look at here. You definitely are buying too much mana first, right? You're not building Ludens, which in itself is kind of bad because that's her first core item now. But you're buying 2 mana items. This is only mana sustain and health sustain. It's not damage, it's not AP, it doesn't help you really in lane other than to have more mana to throw more abilities. But without AP and Pen or CDR, your abilities aren't even that strong. You do not build this much mana early game on Annie. This is like something you would do on Rise or Cassiopeia. You don't do this on Annie. Annie doesn't need this much mana, trust me. The quicker you build your Lost Chapter, because this item gives AP and mana and CDR, it actually gives more mana than this in some cases. The extra AP and CDR is going to give you more power and output in lane, so you're not going to need sustain as much because your trades are going to be better. Your laning and your farming is going to be better because it's easier to farm with more AP and you can just wave clear if you have to. This is just kind of like a scaling item that says, I'm okay with how I am right now, but I want to be stronger later when I finish Rower, when I finish Mask. This Lost Chapter for the same price, and you're just off to the races. You have AP, you have CDR, it builds into a more aggressive item that lets you do more. You should just be rushing this first. There's absolutely no reason to really be getting Catalyst over Lost Chapter with these recent changes. You're kind of handcuffing yourself when you get this much mana early. The rest of your build's kind of okay, considering that you got these items first, but you finish your row at 26 minutes. If you're buying a Rod of Ages, you need to be finishing that like before 12 or 13 minutes. Ideally, you even finish it at like 10 minutes. 13 minutes is more okay. Like, that's fine. But 26 minutes is not okay. You're also getting your Zhonya's way too late. So there's definitely itemization errors in this build, but with the notes that I'm going to leave at the bottom of the video and throughout the context of this game, I think it'll become more clear why this itemization is so bad. But if we look at how strong Annie is right now, with these mage changes, she is 100%, I would say, pick ban. As long as she were more popular, people would be banning her more. If you look at these win rates right here, this is insane. 20th in win rate in the first 0 to 25 minutes of the game. That's good. Like, that's not amazing, you know, it's not top 10 or top 15, but that's good. The thing is, it only gets better. By late game, she's a god. If you reach 30, 35, 40 minutes, she's the best champion in the game right now. I think these numbers here kind of speak for themselves. She is not just strong early, with still a positive win rate before 25 minutes, but after 40 she goes up to god tier. After 30 and 35 she goes up to god tier. I do think Ignite is generally what you should be taking on her. Teleport is still good. I also think Ghost is good. Maybe you want Exhaust if you're against a Zed and you're scared, but I also am going to leave a note as to why Ghost is good, and you should also be opening yourself up to using that potentially. Someone like Aurelion who is fast, maybe you need Ghost to chase him down, or Ghost to run away from him. You run away from him and then you run back in because you're still fast, because Ghost lasts so long. But mainly, looking at these items, it's important to note that the highest win rates here, even though the sample size is small, there's not a lot of data here, the highest win rates belong to the Luden's Rush builds. And that's no secret. This item is very broken right now. It's probably going to get nerfed. A lot of items tend to be too strong on release when they change them. And this thing is out of whack right now. You should be rushing this on most mages, especially Annie, not Roa. There's a reason why this Roa build right here, you only see it in 1 out of 5 of these popular builds. Other thing to note, Sorc Shoes are overwhelmingly the positive choice on her. And you don't really go Summoner Spellbook anymore on Annie. It got nerfed, and when you see a win rate difference of like 6% over the 2 most popular builds, and they have the same pick rate, that should very much tell you that this is the better build, 100%. But I would even go so far as to say that best build for her when you're playing in lower elo, trying to stomp and carry and like get massively fed by 20 and 25 minutes, Electrocute. But we'll get into it. So we're finally going to start the review. If I could actually pull up the video, I would. Ooh. Oh no, that's right. I closed it. Here we go. So with all this information in mind that we have before the game, and then the description for the video, we're gonna fast forward to the good stuff.
Welcome to Summoner's Rift. Minions have spawned. A summoner.
So ideally, your main goal in laning phase right now. I need to pause this. That's a little too loud. There we go. Your goal in laning phase is early on like this is kind of just to stay back, use your auto attack and your Q range to farm up. Eventually you build up a stun and maybe you go in for like a cute trade with an auto Q auto. But really you're just trying to not take damage and just farm up. You're taking a lot of damage from the minions here. I think you're underestimating that. All of this minion damage is super important because minion damage is pretty much what kills you. Level 2. Now he only does 30 damage to you with that, but you continue to take about over 100 from the minions. He only does 30 to you with his W, but because you're getting minion aggro from attacking him, you take like triple that or quadruple that from minions alone, and that's going to be why you die level 2 here. You're trading back, which is good, but you're forgetting that these minions are attacking you. Still attacking you. They're still attacking you. When you get minion aggro, you need to walk away from them and reset their aggro so that they acquire minions as another target. When you stand here and just let them pelt you, they're killing you. I'm going to slow it down and show you one more time how quick your health bar starts going down to mostly just minions. Because once you throw this auto attack right here, because you hit him with that Q, which is a single targeted spell, all these minions just start turning on you. You're kind of dead before he even flash autos you. The ignite along with the minions alone was going to finish you off right there, 100%. So you definitely need to be careful about trading against somebody and not respecting the minion damage. So you're getting back in your zone, you're farming, trying to stack up a stun, and then it works out, right? Generally, you should just be looking to stack stuns and then look for a trade. It only gets better if you stack stuns, they miss an ability or something, and then your trade becomes even easier. Because if they miss an ability, then they can't use it on you, obviously. Your farming looks okay. It's not great, but it's okay. You're low on mana here, but you're still 200 gold away from the item you want. So you know that if you just farm like the next wave or two, you should be good. We're just chilling out right now. You got enough for your item right now, but like you're under tower, so you gotta get this farm, right? You're full HP and you have mana. So you don't just back just because you have enough here. You can test him. Now this is where Aurelion starts to roam. When you see him leave lane like this, you should already be trying to push. Sure, you even see him down here on the ward, so once you know he's already bottom, and let's see if you started pushing harder yet. You need to punish the fact that he left lane, and you're not hard pushing. This is another one of the benefits of the W max. Because if he leaves lane, W max with all of its wave clear is going to give you the pressure you need to push this wave and then go back and get back to lane before he even gets back, because he died. And you push it, but you don't push it in all the way. He's still dead for another 7 seconds before you left. And when you decide to leave this lane without pushing it under tower first, look what happens to all these minions. These are minions that you're not farming when you could have been farming them, because he was still dead. And then it's kind of getting frozen here. It does push back to you, but when you have the opportunity to push it all the way under tower because the guy's dead, you need to do it. And that becomes easier with a W max build because you have more AoE. It also becomes easier. Annie can also get a little bit of wave clear out of her E, whereas if you walk up and W the wave and then they're only hitting you, you can pop your E for a few seconds and they're going to take some more magic damage, like if it was a Bramble Vest or something. Usually you don't want to tank a lot of minions, you know, because you're still squishy mage who doesn't build tank items. But this can help you push a wave quicker. If you're just trying to push it back, because you're going to be safe once you back anyway, and you're not going to get ganked from pushing that wave, then, in hindsight here, go back one more time, again, there we go. Right now when he's dead, you kind of just mess around for a little while. You need to push this wave, because he's still dead for 10 seconds. You have plenty of time. Wukong's not here, you know, your team is kind of nearby. Pushing this really wasn't all that dangerous in this position. You might feel unsafe because it feels close to their tower, but you have your flash, your full health. A level 4 or 5 Wukong gank isn't going to kill you. This is the kind of stuff you have to push for, because you don't just miss pushing him under tower and denying them more CS, but you probably miss like 150 to 200 gold and a third of a level in experience. Laning phase is for maximizing XP, experience, and gold. And when you choose to not just farm this extra wave here and not push it under, we're going to look at what you did instead. Because this is all a very teachable moment to show you where you're making mistakes. You choose not to get this XP and gold right here. You stop your back. You're trying to stack your stun here. But this is all time that you waste, right? When you decide to back, you need to just decide to back. These extra 10 to 15, 20 seconds that you wasted that weren't spent getting XP and gold really slow you down. So you want to kind of trim the fat from stuff like this. Don't waste time. Push it and roam. Push it and back. Push it and spend money and get back to lane so that you can continue to get more XP and gold. Another point to make here about not being able to tank minions. This is a big wave, so you don't want to just walk up to this. Sure, you have Catalyst, so you can kind of take some trades here. You're not like completely squishy, but you don't walk up to this wave here while he's standing here. You wait for this to crash. Since you walk up and contest it, you just give him this free opportunity to attack you. And when you take this stun and you take this damage from these minions, yeah, you get a nice trade back on him. And like, I would even say this is okay because you have Catalyst and he doesn't, so you can heal back up. But you took way too much damage, right? You took over half your HP. This goes back to the when you're taking minion damage, you need to completely just disengage. I think you'll find that the more you respect it, and the more your opponents don't, you can even use it against them. Minions tend to do more damage than champions early game, depending on how many there are. So you need to respect them just as much as you might respect the enemy champion. Alright, so you're getting all in on him. Your stun wasn't up, but you still threw the skills anyway because you needed the damage. I think that's fine. But it's important to see why this fails. At this very moment, you have your stun up. What happens here? And slow. You have your stun here, you have your flash. Okay. Oh, that's really unfortunate. Okay. Let's see what happened here. One, flashing under tower, like flashing under the middle of tower is generally something you absolutely do not want to do. Because with your low HP, if you flash into the middle of the tower aggro, you have no way to get out. You're just gonna die. You need to save your flash and either flash all the way through the tower so that you can walk back out the other side, or somehow manage to get this stun and then be able to flash out. When you're mid lane and you're playing these squishy mid laners, you cannot be flashing under tower without an escape, or you're going to die on the way out, unless you're full HP or something. So one, you can't flash under the tower with no way out with this low HP. Two, you kind of flash into some minions and get caught. But the reason why this is so bad is because you flash, you don't throw your Q immediately and he stuns you, but your Q still goes off after he stuns you. So you end up getting the minion aggro, or the tower aggro, even though he hits you first, and like you got stunned because your Q still went off. So when you're making these decisions to like flash on this guy and get this kill, the way you do this is to push him in first. Actually, there's a lot of reasons why this does not work out. When you know you're about to go for a kill, this guy's low, right? This is going to bounce back to the idea that I think Electrocute is just a way better way to play Annie right now with the current state of the itemization. If you have Electrocute, this guy just dies with like a Q auto W. He just dies with Ignite, 100%. But the issue is that you go for this dive, and you mess it up, but you use your ability right before you go for it, right? This ability is on cooldown the moment you go for this dive. So all you really have in terms of damage is a Q, your Ignite, and Comet. Your W's not up here, you already used Tibbers. This is bad. You flash under tower without all of your abilities up, and you're low. This is not something you can repeat. The way you do this instead is that you would continue to walk past tower here, very sneaky like. You kind of just walk this way, bait him to throw a Q, but you don't attack him yet. What you do is that you walk, and instead of flashing to the middle of the tower radius where you have no escape, you flash to this side. And then you dump all of your skills on him, and then you can still walk out. When you flash under the middle of the tower here, there's nowhere for you to go. You're just gonna die. Right, and this tier purchase here is bad. You already have mana in your build here because you have Catalyst. You should be buying Sorc Shoes with this gold. If you had Sorc Shoes, you would be doing way more damage once you get back to lane. Imagine if you had like Sorc Shoes and Electrocute. You know, maybe you went Lost Chapter first as well instead of Catalyst. If you had Sorc Shoes here and Lost Chapter, you would have over double the AP because Lost Chapter gives 35 AP, and you would also have Sorc Shoes, and you'd probably also be closer to level 8. Had you gotten a little bit more farm and, you know, not died here or there, you could potentially even be getting close to level 9 right now. So if you would be level 9, let's say a minute from now, with 35 more AP and Sorc Shoes and Electrocute, I think your power curve would be looking extremely different compared to what it is now, with the mistakes you've already made with your choices to all in against minions and the tower, and then you build mana. So you're just digging a deeper hole for yourself where you're not actually buying what you need or picking correct fights. You don't fight against 5 and 6 minions early game. You know, you don't dive under towers without a way out when you have low HP. These are things that you really have to stop doing. Once again, Aurelian's bot lane, but because you are not maxing your W, you cannot push the lane fast enough to punish him for it. So he's just farming your teammates. You finally push it under fast enough, but this needs to happen sooner. Because the sooner you push it under, the sooner you can go somewhere else, like what you're doing now. This takes you way too long to do. Like, Aurelian goes bot and double kills your teammates by the time you finally push him in and go top. If you have more wave clear and you're quicker to realize that he left lane and that you need to punish him, then maxing W is a quicker way to do that. But you go top, and it looks like this is a pretty simple go. Fast forward. You have money, but not really a lot here. You definitely need to farm. So we're gonna farm up for a little while. You still don't really have the money you want, but you're getting close. Alright, and we're gonna look at this kill. So you've been wearing him down. This is just easy, right? If we pause this right here, you have flash, you have ignite. This guy only has 540 HP. Like, you've been waiting for this whole time. But I actually don't think you need to flash here. I think you waste your flash here 100%. And I'm going to show you why. And pause. Once you see this guy walking forward to you like that, you could have just Q'd him and stunned him, right? Look how close you are. This guy is definitely in range of your Q. You don't need to flash for this stun. Not even a little bit. If you just Q him and then walk up to him and press W and R, he dies all the same. Press W, R, ignite him, and maybe he even still flashes away and dies. I think a lot of times you'll find that if you give someone the opportunity to flash away from something in a panic, they will. The same way he does it now. So if you just like QWR him and ignite him, it probably doesn't insta-kill him, but he gets so low that he thinks he can still flash away and then he dies to your ignite. So you reach this same result just without having to blow your flash. Aurelion Sol is naturally kind of a short-range champion, so when you see that he is going to just walk up like this, just go for the Q first. There's no need to flash for this stun here. He's just giving it to you when he walks up to the wave. Alright, now this is super important because you have a lot of money here, and misspending large amounts of money is how a lot of games are lost.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
Okay. Your build has finally managed to get to a decent place. I would even say your current build path is not even that bad. You bought them in the wrong order, though. You don't get Catalyst first anymore. Unless you think you can really get that Roa you're looking for before 10 or 11 minutes, you just don't get Catalyst anymore. You just don't. But right now, this build says that you want to get Seraphs, and that you also still want to get either a Roa or an Abyssal Mask. The fact that you bought this Catalyst, but you didn't rush your Roa makes it bad, and it means the only logical thing that you get next with this Catalyst is a Abyssal Mask. But in this case, I don't think that's correct, because they only have 1 AP, and you don't need that much magic persistence. It is also not an optimal damage item for you, because you're not a tank. So this Catalyst is bad. I also think you should not be going for Seraphs and Abyssal Mask. The only way that would work is if your team genuinely needed a tank, and they had maybe 2 APs. So in general, this build is just bad. You have 3 mana items at 15 minutes. You are not Rise, okay? Okay. I think this is another example of you definitely not respecting tower aggro. The same way you flashed under the tower to try to kill him, and you hit him while you're under tower, which is a very obvious way to get tower aggro. You kind of do it again here. You return fire on him because he walks up to you and you have a level lead, and like you kind of can go for this. But when you know someone has CC, you can't just attack them under tower. You could have pressed R there, stunned him, walked out, and then walked back in to land another Q. When you choose to stand under tower like this, like, you're just getting your ass beat. These hurt so bad, right? I mean, you didn't just get stunned by Aurelion Sol. This is the tower that killed you right here. Aurelion hit you with a Q, but it's not the tower. Or, I mean, it's not Aurelion that killed you here. The same way it wasn't Aurelion that killed you at level 1, or level 2 with all the minions. The same way it wasn't Aurelion that killed you the second death. It was the tower. It was the minions. You need to have more respect for him. Alright, now, this is just an overstay. You don't die here, though, if you didn't take all those tower shots, right? I think you potentially get out. But because you took all those tower shots and got yourself down to below half, this is all of a sudden a very easy kink, where you are just dead. stalls out.
Red team's turret has been destroyed.
I would definitely get a pink ward when you leave base here. It's also worth noting that you're level 11 now and you still haven't upgraded your trinket. I think yellow trinket in the mid lane is still general and good, but I think you should be getting in the habit of changing to blue trinket when you can at level 9. The reason why I like blue trinket so much is that the wards are permanent. You may only get one at a time every 2 minutes, but what you do with blue trinket is that the first time you come out of base with it, after you get level 9, you would take it and you'd put your first one like right here in the corner of this bush. Because if you put that ward right here in the corner of this bush, you're always going to be able to like see this choke and the raptor camp from now on. You'll see the edge of them. That way you'll know if like someone's fighting them or something, and that's just going to stay there until somebody comes in and clears it, because blue wards are permanent. And then 2 minutes from then, when you get your next blue ward, you know, you put it right here. You take the next one, you put it on blue. So like after just 4 to 6 minutes after getting your first blue trinket, you can have like 3 to 4 wards inside your own jungle that are going to last forever, that protect you. The reason why you start putting the blue wards in your jungle first is that, one, they last forever, right? But you're essentially laying the groundwork for more wards to be placed later on into the game where they need to be. Because if you have these things warded going into mid game around like, you know, 10 to 15 minutes, if all this is warded by your blue wards that you got since level 9, your support's going to feel a lot more enabled to lay wards like, you know, here or in the river or on their side of the jungle, because you've already taken care of stuff like this and they don't feel the need to ward it. So this is able to give you like advanced control going into the mid game when you get blue trinket early. There's still uses to yellow trinket, you know, warding 2 things at once, warding over walls. They're invisible. You know, blue trinkets have a smaller vision radius and they're not invisible. There's definite downsides. I don't think you get blue trinket every game, but I think if you try that out, start working on it, it's going to build a really good habit for you. And I think you'll find a blue trinket first, especially when you can get level 9 before other people, is a really cool way to build vision control. Going into this fight, you have a stun up, you use it, and then he goes in because you used it. You return fire, and he realizes that he actually can't fight you. If he were to stay right here, and you hit him with another Q, then your stun is going to proc like Tibbers Enrage, and he's just going to kill this guy. So this is where like a CDR build, aka Luden's First, comes into play. You're able to chain more stuns and more CC and more damage more quickly. Annie already does a bunch of damage on her first rotation, but you can generally always kill most people with it too, if you have something like Luden's and some Magic Pen in the mid game. Alright, I definitely think mid is still the correct place to go here. The fact that they have double Cloud Drakes here is definitely a concern now. When you're playing mid lane, like this game's starting to get late, even though the laning phase for you kind of feels the same, because you still just keep going back to mid with how this game's playing out. This Cloud Drake makes it very dangerous to you to start walking up like this in the mid game. 2 Cloud Drakes is like 50 out of combat movement speed, which is more than boots. This is going to make it really easy for people to just come out of the bush or come out from behind you, and you only run at 380 right now. Some, you know, bruiser with their boots right now, like Wukong, he runs at 432 with these Cloud Drakes and his Ninja Tabbies. If he were to come around here and flank you right now with these double Cloud Drakes, even though you still feel like you're kind of close to your tower, you are really not that close. And you're not tanky, and this is dangerous. You got to get out of the habit of kind of just walking up like this, especially later on in the game. Especially against Cloud Drakes. It makes it much easier for someone to just walk up and catch you, because you're not fast. This guy's fast. right here, you have a stun stacked up, but then you choose to cast your Q on the minion right there and you lose your stun. You should definitely just go for the auto attack to kill that minion, because not having your stun here means that you basically can't kill Zoe. You still have all of your damage, but without your stun, you don't have that duration that you need to stay close enough to get your second rotation up. And the stun is also time, like, for Tibbers to beat people up, right? Tibbers does damage with, like, his mini Sunfire cape, and he does auto attacks. You're dependent on your stun for your damage. You can't just drop your damage on people with Annie. The way you do it is that you stun them first, drop W and R, and then try to get another stun up, in which case Tibbers runs them down and tries to beat their ass. But because you don't have another stun, Tibbers is kind of just, you know, walking at her, right? I also think it's worth noting out that if you were to have Lupins here, rather than this Catalyst and Tyr, you have enough damage to kill her anyway. You had 2 levels up on this Zoe, you know, she's squishy, she doesn't have health, she doesn't have magic resistance, but because your build is subpar, and you don't stun her, you still don't have the damage to kill her. You could kill that Zoe a lot of different ways at this point in the game, but there's a lot of reasons why you don't. One of them being the fact that you choose to use your stun before you go in on her. The other being your itemization, being very useless at this point in the game. Like, look at all this mana in your build. Look at all this mana that you have, but you don't have health. You don't have health and you don't have damage. You got 1900 mana, that's nice, but you know, doesn't really help you out a whole lot. I definitely think you're kind of stuck at this point. You're not really allowed to die this many times in a row with a bad build as a mid laner. You're already setting yourself behind with your bad build, and then you start dying even more and you kind of lose your relevance. But even with that said, you're still strong. Like, you are actually still strong. Even with how not best, not optimal your build is right now, you're still strong. You could still opt into some magic pen like a Oblivion Orb. If you have Sword Shoes and Oblivion Orb at this point in the game, there are still plenty of people who do not have magic resistance who you could destroy. You know, Sivir doesn't have magic resistance, you could kill her. This Zoe cannot live through your combo. Wukong gets, you know, he gets some magic resistance from his passive and scaling, and he has health and challenging smite, which make him kind of hard to kill. Maybe you don't go for him. You know, Alawi's tanky, you don't go for her. When you're a mid laner, you want to think about how much damage you have and who are your best targets to go after. Who are you most likely to kill if you go after them? And in situations like this, that answer is Zoe, Wukong if you have help, and the Sivir. The reason why I don't say the Sivir first is because if you see that she has her spell shield up and she blocks your stun, that's kind of bad, right? Sivir's a very fast champion. If she absorbs your stun and kites you, you're gonna have a hard time. So if you see her use her stun or her shield, or you're confident that you can stun her before she pops it with like a flash R, then you can go for her. But points like this in the game, you need to be thinking about exactly how much damage you have. Like, start adding these numbers up. If you have double pen, you can kind of think of these as true damage versus the squishies who don't have magic resistance yet. So you do some quick math, you throw in Ignite, you think about your Meteor, you think about your Electrocute, and then you try to think, who am I most likely to kill if I combine all of my spells with them? Because right now that you've died again with your rough build, you kind of continue to go out with your rough build. Like, we already saw that you build your row at 26 minutes, right? I saw that you finished your Seraphs at 24 minutes. These are not the kind of item spikes you're looking for. You need to get more damage more quickly and as Annie. And definitely respect towers and minions more. At this point in the game, you've kind of become a passenger for sure. You need to get carried at this point. You can still be useful and you can still do things, but you're not going to hard carry this game anymore. Not with this build. This right here is actually also a good example of why I wanted to say Ghost is good. In a situation like this where people kind of overstay or just hang out too long, Ghost is really good for chasing down team fights, right? A lot of the times the only problem you have with Annie, because her weakness is the fact that she's completely immobile and slow, is that you only need to be close enough to actually land the spells on people. So if you can pop Ghost in scenarios like this, or long team fights that get dragged out through a lane, popping Ghost to chase people down can help you secure more kills. Like, Ghost will be more useful than Ignite in some cases. This is kind of hurts extra because, you know, they have double Cloud Drake, which makes it even harder to catch people. But these are things that you have to think about when you're playing an immobile mage. If you don't have any way to speed up and get in range, and they're even faster because they have Cloud Drake, you're going to have to find a way to solve that problem. One moment, I'll be right back. Almost done. Alright, we're approaching the 45-minute mark, so this is going on a little long. I think for the most part, I'm gonna look over these last few deaths and see how you would play the team fights given your current strength level. We'll kind of go from there. In terms of this death right here, it's after 20 minutes in the game and they have the Cloud Drakes, right? You can't just be on the map alone like this. This goes back to your immobility and the fact that you're basically just sitting around waiting to get killed. After 20 minutes, you need to be doing head counts of where your teammates are on the map, who's alive, and who don't you see. Because once you don't see them and you know that your teammate's far away, on a squishy mage like this, where you don't have any movement speed, you're dead. You're already overextended and you're already dead here. You need to be more mindful of how aggressive your positioning is and how vulnerable it makes you, especially after 20 minutes, or especially when they have stuff like double Cloud Drake and people like Aurelion and Sivir and Wukong and Zoe who are just going to pop out of bushes and try to kill you because they're fast. So you need to show more respect for that. Right here, you're really not showing respect for that. This is all just kind of, you know, normal stuff. You're just defending the base and farming while you're behind. Do want to look at this though. This is why I said you don't really want to flash for Sivir, right? Because she just kind of naturally has a nice counter against you with her shield here. You're not strong enough with your build to overwhelm her defenses because she has shield, she has spell shield. You only have how much? You only have 185 AP and Sword Shoes for magic penetration. 185 AP and Sword Shoes at 26 minutes is not a strong mid laner. You could be level 16 right now with, you know, more pen and possibly 350 to 400 AP with a better build. And Ludens, which would give you more damage, right? With its 100 damage plus 10% AP ratio, that would be another, you know, 140, 130 damage on your spells every so often. So you're definitely missing a lot of damage here. And then you try to go for the kill anyway, and, like, you know, this is just what happens when you're behind. You use your flash to do it. We're gonna look at one more time to see how it could have been better. I think it's obvious that, you know, she knows you want to go for this kill here. I think the way that you do this, given that this is kind of a desperation kill, just kind of for future reference, because she's so hurt, this is still kind of doable. but not really. But I'm gonna show you how. She's definitely trying to bait you here. You flash here, and then if we slow it down, she shields, and you miss. The way you would outplay this is that instead of, you know, flashing and trying to R her, which is kind of obvious and actually has a delay to it, Tibbers has a very short cast time, and you know, you didn't really cast it immediately after flash. There was some anticipation there. Like, she was able to predict that you were going to do this. So the way you outplay this the next time is that you flash at her, and the moment you flash at her, she's probably going to use her shield. You wait for the shield to go down, because it only lasts for 1.5 seconds. If you wait for that shield to go down, like you wait, you know, 1.3, 1.4 seconds, then you cast your Q. Because if you cast your Q then, it's going to be in flight when her shield comes down and you're going to stun her. It is worth noting here that you also don't even have a stun ready, so you should not even be flashing for it to begin with. Looks like you guys kind of just lose here. Alright. In summary, I think most of your trouble this game definitely stemmed from your build paths. Your items were bad, and there was multiple times where you didn't have a stun, or you tried to force the flash stun too hard. In general, just be more patient. Wait until you see that little purple bar fill up, and then lead with your Q. If you have a stun and you throw the Q first, you're not going to miss, right? Unless it's Wukong and he W's the Q mid-flight, or, you know, Sivir spell shields the Q mid-flight, your Q is going to be a guaranteed stun. So get more comfortable getting your Q first, or getting the stun first, like counting to 4, you know? Then throw your Q. And then while the Q is in flight, get closer to them so that you can land W and R. They mostly all have very similar ranges, so you don't have to get much closer. But the reason why I say get in range first after you throw your Q is that, you know, sometimes you throw it at max range while someone is walking away. So when you throw it and you know that they're walking away, you're going to have to keep following them to stay in range for the stun. And going back to your build, I think here's just another time where I point out how much mana you have and how bad this is. Not only do you have all this mana, there's things in the game such as, like, there's blue buff, you know, there's mana flow banned. You have 2,700 mana, dude. Like, this is so much. I think you can see by this point how you don't need this much mana. I would say stop building Roa so much, just go for the Luden's first build and try to build like Oblivion Orb, Sorcerer's Shoes, then go into Zanya's, you know, maybe get the Spellbinder Orb, but Zanya's Rapidons, Void Staff, stuff like that. Stay away from Roa, stay away from Seraphs, try to stick to the core items and the suggestions that I leave in the bottom of the video. I hope this was helpful for you, and good luck in your next few games.